All right, we are starting section 3.2, the elimination part of it. So we already did 3.2 substitution. This is just a different way of doing the problems. All right. In the notes part, I went through and underlined all of the words that you're filling in the blanks.
Wow. So kind.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You can solve a system of equations by using the elimination method, which is based on the addition property of equality. By adding additive inverses, also known as opposites, you can eliminate one of the variables completely. This leaves only one variable, and you can easily solve the system. First step, look for variables whose coefficients are opposites. If a pair does not exist, you can multiply an equation by a number in order to obtain opposites. I think it's strange that they put first step in here when they don't really ever specify what the second step is, but we'll talk through it. All right, number 1. Did we all get the problem copied down? So our step 1, or our first step that they said in the notes there, was to look for variables that had opposite coefficients. Do we have that? Yes, which variable? Which variable has opposite coefficients? Y is the correct answer. Why? More than just positive and negative. One's positive 2, the other one's negative 2. Okay, so they are opposite numbers. Are we all okay with that? Yeah. Okay. So if they're opposite numbers, if we add these equations together, the y's would eliminate completely. What that means, so this is kind of like the step 2. We are going to add down the columns, keeping our equal sign in the same place. So if I take 4x and x and combine them or add them, what does that give me? 5x. What happens when I combine negative 2y with positive 2y? They cancel out. That's why I didn't leave any room for them. Those cancel to 0. We could just make a big 0 there. What about combining positive 7 with positive 3? We get a 10. Are we all okay with that part of it? Yes. All right. Then we can solve this really easily. What do we do? Divide both sides by 5. X equals 2. That was easy, wasn't it? This is my favorite way of doing these. Okay, but we're not quite done. What do we still need? We need to plug it back in to find y. Now the downside to this is that neither of these are solved for y. Neither of these are solved for y, but that just means we get to pick which one we want to use. Do you want to use the top or the bottom? Bottom one. The 2 is getting plugged in for x. So 2 plus 2y equals 3. So we took the 2 here and we substituted it into that equation. Now we have to solve for y. How do we do that?
Subtract 2 from both sides.
If we subtract this 2 from both sides, we end up with 2y equals 1. And then to get y all alone?
Y equals 2.
No. Y equals 1/2. We divide by 2. Y equals 1/2. We still write it as an ordered pair. Ian, what is it? 2, 1/2. And that is our answer. Yes, which variable has opposite coefficients on number 2? Y. Again, We've got a positive 2 and a negative 2. Once we know that a variable will eliminate itself, we can go ahead and combine the equations straight on down those columns. Now this is contingent upon the fact that our equations are set up in the right order. Okay, so x, y equals a number, x, y equals a number. If they're not set up that way, you need to rearrange them first. I don't think we see any like that in the notes, but it's possible you'll see that on homework. Okay. When we combine down our columns, what do we get?
5x equals 20.
Are we okay with getting there?
Yes.
How do we get x equals 4? We divide both sides by 5, so x equals 4. But we're not done. What do we need to find now? Which equation do you want to use? The bottom one is the first one I heard. So we're going to take this 4
And put it where the x is at.
and put it where the x is. So that gives us 3 times 4
Minus 2y equals 14.
minus 2y equals 14. 3 times 4 is
12.
12 minus 2y equals 14. And then
Subtract 12 from both sides.
subtract 12. We get negative 2y equals,
2
and then
divides negative 2 by both sides.
y equals,
Negative 1.
but we have to write our answer as
Or
an ordered pair, so it is
4, negative
4 comma negative 1. That is our answer. All right, Ian, what's the first thing that we notice about this problem? How'd you know what the first thing to do was? Okay. Logan?
I saw that they were opposites of 3x.
Good. 3x and negative 3x are opposites. That means we are ready to combine. When we combine down the columns, what happens to the x's? They zero out. We combine y with a negative 2y. What does that give us? Negative 1y. Equals negative 9 combined with a positive 12. Would be a positive 3. But then we have to get y all alone. Divide by negative 1. Ooh. Divide by negative 1. What do we get for y? Y equals negative 3, but we're not done. What do we have to do? Plug it in. Which equation do you want to use? The top one? Okay, so we're going to take this and plug it all the way back in at the top equation for the y. So that means we have 3x plus a negative 3 equals negative 9. Instead of writing this as plus a negative, how else could I have written it? Minus, okay. So we could have just written this as a one big minus sign. If you would rather do that, that's fine. How do we get x by itself? Add 3 to both sides. So 3x equals negative 6. Then divide by 3. X equals negative 2. Ian, what's my answer as an ordered pair? Negative 2 comma negative 3. All right. Yeah, we got lots of opposites, so we don't have to worry about forcing opposites to happen. We've already got them. So let's combine. When we combine 2x and negative 2x, what do we get? 0. If we combine negative y and y, what do we get? 0. If we combine 3 and negative 3, what do we get?
0.
So, do we get a true statement here?
Yes, 0 equals 0.
0 equals 0. When we get a true statement,
Isn't the
And
over
our-
slash
variables disappear, what is it?
Is the line with the slide?
Infinite solutions.
Infinitely many solutions. When we talk about a 0 with a slash through it, that means no solution. But in this one, we have infinitely many solutions.
When do you get no solution?
If you get a false statement, so if we were to get something like 0 equals 5, that would be false. So this is infinitely many solutions. Okay. Sometimes you'll see the symbol. Some students like to just use the infinity symbol. That's a really ugly one. Alright, alright. I don't really like that as an answer. Infinitely many solutions. On number 5, we don't have opposites when we start. So that means we have to force that to happen. Charles? Multiply what by -1? The bottom. It doesn't matter. One of them has to get multiplied by a -1. So the bottom one is fine if you want to multiply the bottom one by a -1. But that means we have to multiply the whole thing, every single piece, by a -1. So what does it turn into?
-4x minus 6y equals 2.
Good. All the signs flip. They all just flip around. When I do this, I like to rewrite my other equation right below it. So I'm just going to take that top equation and rewrite it. 4x plus 9y equals 1. So in order to eliminate, we are going to go down these columns. What happens with my x's? They zero out. They're gone. What happens with my y's?
You combine them and it equals 3y.
Good. -6y plus 9y is 3y. 2 plus 1.
Equals 3.
How do we get y alone?
Divide by 3. Y equals 1.
Wonderful. But are we finished?
No.
No. We need to plug it back in. You can plug it into any of these equations. The original ones, the ones where we switch all the signs, whichever one you want. Which one do you want to use?
Let's use the top.
Okay, the very top one. So I'm going to take this 1, and I'm going to take it all the way back up and plug it in for y. So that gives me 4x plus 9 times 1 equals 1. What's 9 times 1? 9. How do we get x by itself? If we subtract 9 from both sides, we get 4x equals -8. And then divide by 4, x equals -2. But we need to write it as an ordered pair. What is it? -2, comma 1. X, comma y. Alright, so on 6, once again, we don't have opposites, so we are going to multiply through by a -1. When we do that, what do we get? -3x minus 14y equals -28. All right, then I'm going to rewrite that top equation below it so that they're right next to each other. 6x plus 14y equals 30. All right, when we combine these, which variable eliminates?
14.
The 14y's eliminate. When we combine our x's, what do we get? 3x equals 2. When we divide by 3, we get x equals 2/3. Now that's not pretty, but it's a number. All right, I need to erase some of my work from example 5. Are we all done with example 5? Okay, because I got to erase some of that to have some space. Erase, erase, erase. In fact, let's just take it all away completely. Lots of room. All right, now I go to find my y. Which equation do we want to use? The top. Okay, so we are going to take this 2/3 and we are going to pull it all the way up to the top and plug it into the x. So that means we have 6 times 2/3 plus 14y equals 30. 6 times 2/3 is 4. 4 plus 14y equals 30. To get y by itself, subtract 4. 14y equals 26. To get y all alone, divide by 14. Does this come out nice? No, but we can simplify it. 13/7. So our ordered pair is 2/3, comma 13/7. The question was asked, can we do a decimal? In general, I'm okay with decimals. However, I'm not okay with rounded decimals. And 13/7 does not come out nicely as a decimal. You would have to round it. So in this case, your best bet is to stick with your fractions. Do we have opposites? No. What are we going to do to make it have opposites? Multiply by a -1. Now, just as a heads up, a -1 is not the only thing we can multiply by. Okay, that's what we're using a lot today in our notes. But if you needed to use like a -2 or something, it's also fair game to do that. But we need to do a -1. Are we going to multiply the top or the bottom?
The bottom.
Okay. If you did the top one, that's fine. You should end up with the same answer in the very end. When we multiply through by a -1, what do we get?
-2x plus 3y equals -6.
All right. I'm rewriting my other one below it. What do we notice as far as elimination is concerned?
The y and the x cancel out.
All right. If we go to combine these, -2x plus 2x is 0. Positive 3y minus 3y is
0.
-6 combined with a positive 18 is
12.
What do we notice here? 0 does not equal 12, which means that there is no solution.